everyone. Welcome to Drink It In, the podcast, season 13. This is the chosen path where I get to interview all different types of converts. Well, this is an exciting episode. Let me explain to you why. I have been, as you've been following along, interviewing all the different converts. Well, this time, this is now the husband of one of the women I already had interviewed, and you've heard the podcast, but the husband also has converted. So I thought, how cool would that be if I hear the other side? And let's hear about his journey. So I have Yosef Daniel on. And Yosef, if you can tell us a little bit about where you're from originally, where you live now, and then perhaps get into a little bit of what brought you to the Jewish path.
Thank you so much for having me on. Um, First of all, just letting you know that my wife spoke greatly about your show, and I saw a few of the episodes, pieces of them, and you're doing great. You should be Masliach, continue to bring light into the world, which is what we're celebrating today, right? Hanukkah.
Right,
And
right. Thank you.
and this is, so okay, so I'll kick things off by explaining, like you said, your question was where I came from, where was I born, um, which is always the great detail of the convert, right? Where are you coming from? So I was born in Mexico. I was born in a border town to Texas, named Reynosa, Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. It's next to Monterrey, Monterrey,
Mm.
you know.
Monterey.
Monterey, Monterey jack cheese. Um, so yeah, so I was born there. It's a border town to Texas, um, and it's known for because it's on the border. It's known. It's like Tijuana. Tijuana is also on the border up by was it in California? So it's
California.
known for, and I hope I can say some of this stuff, but it's known for heavy drug trafficking,
Uh-huh.
and also, unfortunately, human trafficking as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, so I won't get into like that yet, but I think we can touch on that as far as like my family involvement in some of those things. Um, but basically, you know, that's where I was born. I grew up in Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas. It's on the Gulf of Mexico. It's a little beach town, and I was born in Mexico, and I think at 7 months old, my father was in the U.S. Air Force.
Mm.
My mother was a student, and they met, and I was born a year later.
Okay, very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So then how did things transpire? Like when you were growing up, were you a religious Christian family? What brought you to religion?
Interesting. So there was a lot of changes. My mother grew up Catholic, um,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very like traditional, but at the same time, they, I think I went once when I was visiting my grandmother in Mexico, once to church with her. So they were not like in Spanish we say the hueso colorado means like red bone. I guess it means that you have it in your bones, Catholicism.
Mm.
But they didn't. They were the opposite.
Oh,
They did.
okay.
They
They
didn't.
did it.
They kept some things. And my mother, when she met my father was going to a Seventh Day
Mm-hmm.
Adventist
Dentistry.
type of church, and that emphasized on Shabbat and Kashrut. Those were the two main things that I remember growing up hearing a lot of. And that's where my dad, was he was part of that community, and apparently he brought my mother into it, and she, was baptized, which was like um, there's a huge difference between being baptized as a Catholic and being baptized as an evangelical Christian. Um,
Mm.
so my mother had kind of left her original faith, which was Catholicism, which is how she grew up, and embraced this new Christianity, this new religion. Um, and so that's basically, and it's interesting because I actually brought that up to her, when I was converting. I said, well,
Yeah.
you did it, like I tried to get, and I think in a way I tried to get her to understand, like, hey, like this is, just like you made a decision that you felt that was right for you. And everybody respected my mother. My uncles, they all respected her. My mother, even my grandmother, excuse me, eventually moved in with us, and also converted to the same church. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so that was the religious upbringing. My father was more. My parents divorced when I was 9 years old, and my
Mm.
father kind of went off on his own. He religiously, like he was not a regular like churchgoer, but he believed in God. He woke up in the morning and ate his breakfast with the Tehillim, and prayed and things like that. And but he was very like charismatic, evangelical
Mm.
Christian, Pentecostal. He just enjoyed the charisma, I think. But he was a lot more lenient towards that rather than like the Sabbath keeping stuff. He kind of left that behind. So that's how I grew up. And when I was 15, I was baptized through the evangelical church, and
Mm.
that's we'll leave that off there.
And then when did you meet your wife?
So her mother's sister, right,
Her aunt.
was my may she rest in peace, Aunt Rachel. So she was the wife of my pastor. Um, but
Oh, okay.
so I knew her family. By the time I was 15 years old. He became the new pastor of the church, and
Mm.
he was very charismatic, very very cool man, very noble, very sweet, um, and at the same time, pretty charismatic. He was a good preacher. He was a good preacher. So he was the new pastor, and we had events. We had conferences. I used to sing and play guitar in the church. I started when I was 14 years old, and my wife also sang. She played guitar also. I don't know if she mentioned this, but she did play guitar, which I'm very proud of. She doesn't play as much, these days, but she used to play guitar. She like she you you're around musicians. All of her uncles were musicians, and all of our friends were like we all got into this thing. Like, if you have any, how do you say, inclination, like musical inclination,
Mhm. Mhm.
you got to be part of the band, kind of thing.
Right.
So we had like 5 drummers, and like we had a lot of musicians in the church. So we did like these conferences, and they we'd end up singing together in the choir and things like backup vocals, or we'd like prepare songs together. And I knew her brother also. Her brother was a drummer as well.
So through the
Hmm.
music, you guys you
Yeah,
performed together in the church?
yeah. Her uncle was um, like a I want to say choir director, so it can make sense. But in the church, we call them praise and worship leaders.
Oh,
Praise and
cool.
worship, yeah. So and I can.
So then, yeah, I'm sorry. Go on. Yeah, I'm sorry to go.
No, no, no. You go ahead. Like,
That's what I was going to say. So you met her through the singing and the music in the church, and you guys became friends, I guess, through that.
yeah, yeah,
Through,
yeah. We were around for the music, and her uncles were involved, with the music as well. Her mother's brothers, and her cousins. Her brother was a drummer. Like we were just around each other like quite often. Um, and yeah, so that's where we met. That's where we met. and my wife is 6 years younger than me. I don't know if she told you.
Mm,
She's 6 years
okay.
younger than me. Um, but she was a very, very mature 6 years younger than me.
She's a very mature,
Very,
6 years younger than you person.
very mature.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so we had this connection, from the get-go. Music is very powerful. There's this kind of rhetoric that's been going around. I guess just being more involved with music that um, us as Jews, we always end up we always when we try to connect with the world, the world rejects us, and this is our struggle, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I've always been a fan of music because it breaks down those barriers, it really cuts through. Look at the song, the Hurricane song, right?
Mm.
Um, I'm sure, of course, there's a lot of anti-Semitism, and they're boycotting the song just because it's a Jew singing it. But how many thousands and probably tens of thousands of people, probably millions, because I'm sure Spotify, she has probably millions of streams from that song, connected with the song itself, just because it's a song, it's beautiful, she has a beautiful voice, and this and that. Or any other artist. Look at what Modest Yahoo has done, in the major music.
One
One
day.
day, it's such a universal message, and even just musicians. There's just so many musicians I can imagine in orchestras and and it's a way of expression that doesn't have any boundaries, and that can really cut through and really
Straight to the soul.
sorry,
Yeah. I said straight to the
straight to
soul.
the soul. Yeah, in Hebrew, there's a saying that says that, right. I mean, my Hebrew is just as good as my Yiddish.
English.
Even people, all my Israeli friends, we've lived here for 14 years, and they're like, "Lama אתה לא מדבר עברית, אחי? מה זה?" And I'm like, bro, I've lived in Ramat Beit Shemesh for 14 years.
Right.
You know how many. I tell them, it's not just English. It's like proper English, even, because we have a lot of British people that live here. So,
Wow.
but anyways, no, but it is true. It is true. Music has that gift and that power to what comes from the heart penetrates the heart, like we say.
Right.
So yeah.
Yes, I mean even in the temple,
Mhm,
right? The
mhm.
Levites, they played instruments.
Yeah.
Every day we say Shir Shel Yom, right? The song of the day.
Oh.
So everything also in Judaism is all about songs. We sit at the Shabbat table,
Mm,
have Zmirot,
absolutely.
everything, so it's a very powerful, strong element within Jewish
Hmm.
culture.
Yeah.
But I still don't. So I still got to get to why you chose Judaism. Like we're not, we didn't get there yet. I want to get to the heart of it. So you're
Yeah.
friends with your wife now. You're in this church. I know her story where they were questioning things. Were you questioning things that you were seeing also? That what opened up your eyes? Like
Mhm.
what happened?
Yeah. Um. So it's a long. I think it's a long process, to get to. Obviously, there's the series of events, that 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 make a person get to where they question what they grew
Hmm.
up with, what they believed in, what they embraced since they were a child. Like there has to. It's a series of, excuse me, of a lot of events, that lead one to that place. Just like what leads you to get married, to the
Right.
person that you get married to series of events that get you to that place, because it's a lifelong commitment. It's a
Hmm.
soul commitment. It's a heart commitment. And it's also a very intellectual commitment. We don't believe and leave it at that. We have to
Hmm.
study. We have to learn Torah. We have to open the books. We're people of the book. And so, to first and foremost, I want to say that attracted me a lot towards Judaism, because um, I I I was lacking a lot as a person, personal personal growth, I guess you can say. But not just that, I was lacking direction in life. I'm much
Mm,
lacking a lot of direction in life, and I was questioning everything. I was
mm,
questioning everything. Like, why do I live in the place that I live in with a lot of violence? You know, there was a lot of violence. Most of my friends that I grew up with were, you know, had violent attacks or were in a
mm,
gang. Um, you know, so that kind of a dark place, you know, led me to want to see light. Um, and I think, you know, that's it. That's exactly what led me to want to know more. Um, and things happen like this. Once I really got to a point of desperation, like we say, the Geula is not going to come until we're at the point of no return, where the only way we can look is up to Avinu Shabbat,
right.
right? When we give up and we just let go and say we can't do this. We're not going to we're not going to deserve it. We're not going to bring it. We're not going to build it. We're not going to we can't look how much effort we're making even now with the war and how we're hitting up and down and they don't care. The the world as it is it's just a world of end. Everything ends. Everything finishes. Life finishes. Happiness finishes. Moments finish. You know, and this is why we're looking towards Bilah Hamavet Lanetzach. Bilah Hamavet Lanetzach. We want this concept of snuffing out the light to finish. We only want the light. So I've always had this desire for that, this desire for wanting more, and I knew that what I was learning wasn't enough. I went to like Bible school, I guess you can say, like a summer program. I was trained to evangelize. I was around pastors. I was around people that were leaders in the church. You know that we were going to. I heard everything they had to say, and it was there was nothing. There was it was for me. Uh, Judaism is not for everybody. I can tell you,
Right.
but you know, but for me, it was like this is not it. You know, I had a lot of friends as a musician that were different religions, Buddhist, um, even people that practice like different types of magic. I had a warlock friend, like people. I was always kind of just an open kind of a person, and I accepted people as who they were because I just was my father just taught me like that, you know.
Mm,
So, um, but I again I saw it and I was like, no, none of this is it. None of it. Where is Hashem? You know, where is God? You know,
right.
um, and the quick you know response to that would be that um, you know I was a victim of a drive-by shooting in my neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, nothing major, but I was hospitalized for 4 days, and I was at a point where I felt like I did a lot with my life. I felt, you know, like okay, I always wanted to play music. I always wanted to tour and I did it. And I did that. I did things that I wanted to do and I felt like okay, I traveled, I met people, I spoke to, you know, and learned from, you know, many wise people, you know, and still it was not enough. And I felt at that point when I was sitting in the hospital for 4 days that I needed to be rescued.
Mm,
You know, I really needed to be rescued because it was either me and you know ending up you know dead or in jail. You know, um,
mm,
because my family, my friends found out that I got shot, and there was some people that wanted to retaliate. I found out
mm,
that I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, and people asked me if I wanted them to get involved, and it became a thing. Like I hit a crossroad, um, and I just really broke down, and I for those 4 days that I was in the hospital, like I had my guitar with me on this like next to me, and I was just singing and reading Tehillim and just
Mm.
really, really praying and doing a lot of introspection. Um, and I was like, I need, I need you to rescue me. I need your help.
Right.
um, and you know, I, I, um, I ended up, leaving the hospital after the 4 days. I was at my mother's house, and I had my leg was raised because I got shot in my ankle, um, and I was not able to walk, so freely. So I was watching TV, whatever. At the time it was TV, not Netflix. And I was watching this pastor, and this is like a really cool turning point because this is really what set things off.
Uh-huh.
Um, just to give it a little bit of more of a dramatic effect. When I was um, when I was 7 years old, um, and by that time, this is in 80. I was born in 81, and this is when the drug cartels were at its peak, you know,
Mm.
in Mexico. And one of my uncles, unfortunately, from my mother's side, got involved, like very, very heavily involved, and it's a mystery to this day. But I mean, I think that when you're involved with this kind of stuff, it affects your family. And unfortunately, one of our other uncles, one of his brothers, my mother's brothers, was murdered.
Mm.
And I was 7 years old, and I remember that affected me so much because he was everybody's favorite uncle to begin with. But it was such a tragic and strange thing that happened. Um, and I remember that overhearing conversations of retaliation and revenge and all this stuff. And this is in Mexico, it's like the Wild West. You know what I mean? Everything goes. In Texas also. In Texas, open carry. There's all everybody has a gun. I mean, I shot pretty much every gun thought of. You know.
Mm.
But it was a very crazy world. It was like a whirlwind of just confusion. Like um, since then, and I felt like I reached that point also because I felt like I could revenge. I have a lot of people that can easily have my back, and people were coming to my house and knocking on my door and literally showing me their guns, like, "Hey, man, let's take care of this," kind of thing. And I'm like, "Whoa!" First thing I thought about was my family, and I said, "No, I don't want to get involved." And then something like what happened to my uncle happened to one of my sisters or my parents. So I hit this really brick wall, and I'm sitting at my mother's house thinking of all this, thinking of all like everything and how the crossroad that I was, the decision that I was about to make was going to either destroy my life or or make my life and
Mm.
lift me up like tremendously. And I'm sitting there and I'm asking God, like, okay, so give me the answer. you know
Mm.
Tell me what to do now. What do I do? Do I just sit here and just wait, or like what do I do? Um and there was this pastor that was speaking. His name was TD Jakes. He's a really big, African American pastor. Very like motivational and just a great speaker. And he was talking about this king in the Tanakh. His name was Yoshiahu, and how he, when he became king at such a young age after his father's death, he destroyed all the idols in the town, in the city. His father was like Rasha, and
Mm-hmm.
he went and destroyed everything. Sorry, I'm this
No,
story
I'm
is going
listening.
on. Sorry.
I'm enjoying it. I'm
Okay.
going. I'm going with you.
So I'm in this. I'm okay. So I'm in this moment, and I'm listening to this pastor, and he's going
Right.
off about how this young man decided to rid of his father's idols.
Mm.
He destroyed them. I think he's used as an example in the Gemara as to if an idol if if you're not if an idol is worshipped by throwing a rock at it and hitting it and eventually destroying it, you're not allowed to destroy it that way. So there was a
Wow.
question whether he was able to grind the statues and all this stuff.
Wow.
So he got rid of all of the idols, and this pastor was saying he was applying it, and when he applied it, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it shook my world. He looked straight into the camera and he says, and this is what you need to do. You need to get
Uh,
rid of the idols in your life. You need to make God first, and on and on. And I was like, what is this? This is kind of crazy. I'm asking for an answer, and then here's this pastor saying this. Now they probably do this all the time, but
right.
but still, it was something that really hit home, and I was like, no, it's true. We've swayed away so much from what we used to be. There was um, there was some rumors that my wife's parents told us when we were starting our conversion. They said, back in the days in the churches in Mexico, they used to have mezuzot on the door, and they used to have an Aron Kodesh with a Torah scroll and everything like that. And I thought, okay, so these were like Morano Jews or crypto Jews on the
Um,
scene, and we're just coming back, you know. And
yeah. So
it
beautiful.
just hit home. This whole moment was just an amazing moment. I actually had a nervous breakdown. I
Oh.
had a nervous breakdown because everything just like hit me. Um, and I was like crying like a baby, and I was
Mm.
asking Hashem, like, really? Like, I don't think I ever prayed like this, and I don't think I have since then. Um, and I prayed and I asked Hashem. I asked it exactly that. I said, take all the idols, you know, out of my life, destroy them, and I ask you to make my heart like a mizbeach for you,
Mm.
that I
So
can
beautiful.
serve you, that I can know you. I'm desperate to know you. I want to know you. I want to know the real God, the real the real God from the Tanakh that they taught us when we were kids. The God of
Mm.
King David, the God of Moshe Rabbeinu, the real one. I don't want anything in between. I want I want you.
Mm.
And when I got up from there, I I I was like, this is it. The next step, the next thing I know, my mother, she gave me the best advice. She says, this friend that you have, which is my wife, she says, I think you need to move to her city, which was like 3 hours away, Austin, Texas. And I think you need to get married with her. I think you need to settle. I think you need to get out of Corpus. It's not good for you here. It's not even safe for you here. This gang was found out where I lived, and they were like threatening. They were throwing rocks at my house.
Mm.
It was crazy, and so um, and at that time I had nobody. I had none of my friends. Like I had really not much like real backup. To I felt like I started to realize like Hashem put me in a place where I had nobody else, you know, to look for. I moved
Mm.
To Austin, Texas, and the moment that I moved to Austin, Texas, um, everything started. My mother-in-law started to look into the news. Gush Katif, and what was going on in 2005, the evacuations, which is crazy because now we're going full circle, right?
Right. Right. Right.
You know, and everything started from there. It was just like curiosity, like, oh, why don't Jews believe in J.C. Penney?
JC.
Like Rami Zaki says J.C. Penney.
Uh,
Um, and you know, and she shared all this stuff, like Rabbi Tovia Singer's questions and all these things, and I asked, you know, I was in a different city, so you know, I didn't feel so
uh,
intimidated by the pastor, but I asked him over the phone. I said, "What about this? What about this verse? What about this? Why does this
mm,
not make sense? Why, you know?" And nobody had an answer. Nobody had an
mm,
answer. Not even my mother, you know. Um, you know, she was a Christian all her life. She read the Bible you know, for
mm,
all my life at least, and she didn't have an answer. And when I saw that nobody had an answer, you know, it's like when you go buy an outfit, you know,
okay.
and you see that the nicest outfit in the store, and you're like, yeah, nobody else can buy this but me. You know what I mean? It's like it's like the car, you know, like the most expensive, like the precious, you know, jewel is the Torah. The world is yet to discover it, but you know, we have it. Hashem gave it to us as a gift. It is such a
Mm,
wonderful, wonderful gift because you can see yourself in it. You can see yourself in the Parashat HaShavua. You can see yourself even in the Haftorah. In the Haftorah, the Haftarah is
right.
my Shabbos read, and I'm telling you,
Mm,
it's like reading the newspaper. You see
mm.
Hashem just speaking to us through the
Through the words, yeah. So then you started studying Judaism. You started taking classes. You got books.
yeah.
Was there anything? Yeah. Was there anything in particular like that you had a moment you like? Okay, now I know I'm on the right path. Did something like you learned something, you heard something, you felt like okay, I'm going in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to throw something in actually
Okay, go
before.
throw it in.
No, because this is I grew up with Mexicans and African Americans. You know, I went. My school was just that was it.
Right.
So we had a great basketball team and a great football team. You know, but I never. I was 14 years old when we read the Diary of Anne Frank,
Mm,
and we saw the movie. And then when I was 15 years old, when I was with a couple of friends and we saw the movie of Schindler's List, and
mm,
I thought to myself, "Oh, Jews don't exist anymore." I didn't live in New York City, you know, with Hasidim walking around with Strimals. There was no internet, no social media. I literally thought that that the Jewish people, I'm Israel Chai. That's why
mm,
it's a big one, you know, because I I had no clue that there was
mm.
Jews. And before I left to Texas, I ran into an Israeli selling the lotions at the mall.
All right.
Oh my God.
The Dead Sea stuff.
The Dead Sea lotions. And I looked at his star. I said, "Are you Jewish?" And he said, "Yes, I'm from Israel." And I said, "Israel? Wait, there's Jewish people there?" And he says, "Yes, better." And I'm like, and I just had to walk away because I'm like, wow, I'm sorry. This is just it was too much to me because again I was looking for those answers, you know.
Mm,
And then I moved to Austin, Texas, and then we started learning online. You know, there was a few websites, you know, but there was Arut Sheva was a big one. You know, we went to the bookstores, the local bookstores, and picked up books. We called rabbis, ask questions. Where can I learn more? Where can I get a Hebrew Bible? You know, it was just one step at a time. But what I think what hit me, you know, what got me the most was when I got a hold of some of Rabbi Eli Mansour's CDs. Rabbi
mm,
Eli Mansour is the Syrian community in Brooklyn rabbi. He comes out on the Heritage Foundation. I think he's done it a few years in a row. for Tisha B'Av. He gives a wonderful speech, and he's now a world renowned speaker and author as well. And I connected with him a lot, tremendously. I went on his websites for halachic questions. Um, I just got hooked. I got hooked,
Mm,
you know. Um, and that for me that was like when I started learning halacha, um, and they just the implementation of it, on a daily basis, and everything that we do. If we drink something, if we eat something, if we come out of the bathroom, you know, um, and it just taught me, um, to embrace every moment and to not take anything for granted. To not take
mm,
anything for granted. Every moment is an opportunity to give praise to Hashem. And it's like it was just, it was really this for me. It was like, oh, this is real. It's not
mm,
something you believe in. It's something that you do.
mm,
It's something that you do. It's something. It's a real relationship. It's a real partnership. It's a real actual. Like your actions are accounted for. Your actions are account. Your and so, um, just everything, kind of in a it was a full package for me.
wow.
you know.
Right. It's so
Yeah.
interesting you say that because here I have been raised my whole life with a Jewish education, Jewish. And even when I come across ideas and thoughts about halacha, like you said, and then they're presented not just the cut and dry of what to do, but rather that there's a deeper essence to it that
Mm.
I should be getting to. Like I remember once I was on a trip. Oh, the Chizuk mission you played for us.
Yeah.
So one time, so you this was the first Chizuk mission I was on. I remember we had a speaker with us, and the speaker we were on our way to Marata Machpelah,
Mm.
and she was talking to us, and she was telling us how every halacha, every law is really there to make us better people. So
Mm.
she said, for instance, boer, selecting on Shabbos.
Mm.
She said, that's there to make you a better person.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, I'm like waiting for it. She says, there are three aspects to boer, right? That it makes it allowed for you to do something that you're allowed to select on Shabbos.
Mm.
The phrase in Hebrew is ochel mitoch psolet, good from the bad, right? Biyad, you have to take it with your own hand,
Mm.
and you have to do it miyad. You have to do it right away. It can't be something that you're going to do for later on. Because if you have those three criteria, then it's not considered selecting
Mm.
on Shabbat, and you could do it. She says that's what life is all about. When something happens to you, you have to learn to take the good from the bad.
Wow.
You have to see your hand in it,
Mm.
and you need to take action right away.
Wow. Phew.
Right?
Wow. That's
Right?
amazing. That
Right? Isn't that amazing?
that is amazing. And that's just one halacha.
Right, right. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
one.
That's why
You know.
it's like unbelievable. That's just one halacha.
Yeah.
That's just one. That's why when you said what you said, I so resonate with me. It resonates with
Mm.
me. I connect to what you're saying. That I could understand when you were like learning these things, and you're saying it's not a belief; it's what I do. It
Mm.
becomes part of you. It's a real relationship. It's a real connection
Yeah.
that you get to have that you didn't experience otherwise.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got to the point where I was, like Motzei Shabbat, I was downloading shiurim for like the following parsha.
Right.
I think before we made Aliyah, I had to sell my computer eventually, but I remember I was so sad because I had over 1,000 like shears on
Wow.
from Rabbi Liman.
Well, who was your favorite? Who was your favorite Parsha Shir besides Eli Mansour?
I'm um I'm like one of those guys, that if you have a favorite band, like that's the only band you listen to.
Oh, so you only listen to Eli Mansour?
I'm not. I can't. I listen to
Oh,
like I now listen to a lot of different rabbis. I like
huh.
Rabbi, and you had him on your Rabbi Lawrence.
Oh, you like him, yeah?
I
Yeah,
love
very good.
Listen to him. I love listening to him.
Yes.
Um,
He lives right near me.
oh, really? So,
Yeah, he was my Masada Kedushin. He married me and my husband.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell him. I'll tell him that you
He's
like
no.
him.
I'm
Yes.
telling you, it's him, and I still listen to Rabbi Mansour, but I like also Rabbi Berkowitz.
Yes. Yeah, from Israel. I mean,
Yeah,
Rabbi Berkowitz.
from
Yes.
More Sameach. It's
Okay.
like I don't know. I feel like it's like listening to your like a long lost grandfather or something. You know, it's
Oh,
he just soothes my soul. I don't know, my
so
neshama.
beautiful.
So
That's
yeah,
so beautiful.
so it's him and Rabbi Ephraim. I forgot how to say his last name.
Wax.
Ephraim Palavik or
Oh,
something
that
like
I
that.
don't know.
But
That's okay.
most of these rabbis, they talk about the what's going on in connection. What they 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 expound on what's in the Nevi'im in connection to today's
Ah,
situation.
I
Um,
hear.
and what I realized that a lot of the stuff that we grew up hearing as Christians, um, they try to use like the prophecies and nevuah in order to I think in order to strike fear in people also, but at the same time they were trying to you know um, to make Yeshu JC Penny the answer, the answer, because obviously they wanted that to to be the answer to the messianic you know the need for a Messiah, the need for a Mashiach, the need for Geula, and so just when I listen to these rabbis, and I think for a while there wasn't many shiurim on Nevuah.
Mm.
One, I think Rabbi Mansour said jokingly, he said that he asked his Rebbe, he says, why don't we learn any of the prophets? So the rabbi turns around and says, because we're a non-profit organization.
Ah,
um,
very funny.
no,
Well, it's true today. We don't have any profits, but yes, I
yeah,
get that. Yeah.
yeah. No, so it's very interesting to me, because it closes, this closure, as a convert. And
Mhm.
I think one of your questions was very um, interesting. You said, what misconception that you see people have on converts? What
Yeah.
misconception do you know? Um, how did you word it? What?
Uh, well, well, I had biggest challenges, but yes, I have. Are there any misconceptions about converts to Judaism that you wish people better understood? Is
Mm,
that the one?
yeah, and I think it connects to this. You know, converts come from a world where they were especially adults, right? But even 20, obviously you have to understand what you're doing, in order to convert. So you have to have some kind of a experience in life. And usually, I've met very few converts that didn't have any religious background at all.
Uh-huh.
Very few, very few. But most of them come from Christian background, or any other religion. And so there's this kind of misconception that converts are like all over the place when it comes to, um, let's say learning, or just in general, this kind of haze, you know.
Mhm.
And I believe it comes from the fact that, if you were in psychology, you have this theory that if you go through a traumatic experience, it takes about the same amount of time to get through it once you're on the other side. And I think for us, once you realize, and once you come to the fact that you believed in something that's false, that you were sold a a bag of goods, you were sold something, you were raised with something that didn't have any emes in it, right? Any emet. Once you get to the other side, it takes time, maybe the rest of your life, to for you to really, and you have to be connected 24/7,
Mm.
24/7. So there's this kind of a um, this we're always chasing to for it. We're always looking for it. We're always wanting more. You know what I'm saying? And I think
Mhm.
that that gives people off this kind of Baal Tshuva syndrome. Like
Mhm.
um, sometimes people just they want to coast through it. They want to just, okay, I'm Jewish. Okay, so what? Like, I don't need to be so stark. I have friends that told me, like, calm down. And I'm like, no, man, we need to do. When I went to H for a while, um, and they're like, man, like, are you sure you didn't grow up like, you didn't grow up Kiva or something, and it's just this thing, and I think that people have this misconception that converts are just overzealous, but it's I don't think it's just overzealotry. I think it's just like, bro, like, do you realize that I just, I won the lottery, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And it shouldn't fade off. Definitely shouldn't fade off, for Baal Chubas, Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's a common misconception. You see that people are kind of like, um, standoffish to some converts,
Mm.
um, that they're, also that people are, that maybe some converts are not serious. That's not true. Especially those that come to Israel. You wouldn't make that huge change. It's a huge change to change your life completely like that, and to leave your country of origin, and to leave your family and everything like that. Now, when people really make this decision, it's because it's a serious decision.
How did your family react to everything?
Hmm. Um, so my father, he actually he passed away, Lava Shalom, during the process,
Mm.
and he reacted very surprised. He was like, "Oh, interesting." He took me aside and he says, "You know, we might have some Jewish background." I said, "Oh, tell me about it." Well, so he says, well, my grandfather was known. They were merchants. They had stores. They sold like retail, and his uncles also sold retail. They became millionaires. They had jewelry stores, um, and so my dad tells me, um, we're very Jewish, like, and to the point where he says, to the point where, your grandfather was nicknamed. Everybody called him El Judío Mexicano, the Jewish
Which is,
Mexican.
oh, that's so interesting.
So, yeah. So I said, oh, well, tell me more. So he tells me, he's like, you know that your great grandparents, like his grandparents, were Spaniard from Spain, and they could be that there's some Spanish. There's a lot of Jews in Spain, you know.
Right. Spanish
So
Inquisition and
yeah, so I looked up my father's maiden name, my father's surname,
surname.
um, and yeah, sure enough, it's in the list of a 400 list 400 names, um, that a Jew in Spain stole from the Roman Catholic Church.
Mm.
The li-
Did you ever do did you ever do that genealogy thing? You know that
oh
a lot of people do?
no, I think I will.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think
I
I
mean,
will do.
I never spoke to any of my other guests about it, but now that you're bringing it up, that perhaps
Yeah,
you have, I wonder,
I
you
wouldn't
know,
doubt it. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. He also, I looked up the name, and it was my father's name and my mother's maiden name, and even her, like my grandmother's maiden name. They were all in there, all these Spanish names.
Wow.
My father's name. I did a little bit more research. There's a guy that went in deep, and he um, he he found Kohanim
Mm.
marks in the DNA in my father's side.
Wow. Wow.
Um, and I thought that was already, pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Um, um, and I think there's, I mean, obviously there's intermarriage and stuff like that, so whatever.
Right.
But I thought it was cool. And then when I was here in Israel, I spoke to a Moroccan rabbi. I was in conversation with him, and he says, from Sfat, I believe. Yeah, he's from Sfat, and he says, the Lopez, background is very Syrian. There's a lot of Syrian Jews. And when he said that, for some reason, a lot of things started to come to my mind. I I remember seeing my mother's brothers um, shecht a cabrito. Cabrito is lamb, or
Hmm.
yeah. Whoa! I think I heard a big boom. Sorry,
Oh,
something happened. Okay, no sirens.
no sirens.
No sirens.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I saw that, and I saw them drain the blood out, and then I saw them cover it, right? That's
Yeah.
halacha, cover the blood.
Right.
And I thought to myself, like, wow, it's possible that maybe, just maybe, I, I was Jewish all along, and Hashem just bring, you know,
Bring you back.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Wow.
but my mother was like, my mother reacted differently. She was like, I don't understand, like, how you can leave your everything we taught you, and from a young
Mm.
age. And again, and it goes back to what I was telling you in the beginning. I said, well, you did it, so
Right. Right.
you left Catholicism because you found some holes there, and now I found even more, you know.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, but it's I think that through time she still doesn't get it. It's sad, but she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. She's very strong in her belief and everything, and I get it. I understand. Um, but it's the same reaction. It's the same thing. Um, it's not for them. She doesn't know much. Which I think is interesting because I'm like, okay, so if my child, you know, chose a different path or something like that, I would at least want to know, like,
What's it all about?
you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah. You want to know what it's all about. What
yeah.
is your child into? Yeah.
At least make a little effort. Read a book, or something.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's painful.
So
Sorry.
yeah, it's okay though. I mean, there's a lot of the cool thing about living in Israel, and probably just in any community, is that you become family.
Hmm.
Other people become family to you. We lived here in Ramat Beit Shemesh for 14 years, and I have an uncle, I have an aunt, I have a saba, and I have a savta and a bubby. You know,
That's great.
I
That's
was
great. I'm so happy.
yeah, I was actually officially and unofficially adopted by Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
Yeah, Bubby, I need to call
Wow.
her.
Wow. Wow. Really came full circle from the Anne Frank and Schindler when you didn't even know there were Jews still alive. And
Exactly.
then one of the survivors adopts you and as part of her family.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
unbelievable.
crazy.
Think about it. Yeah.
Baruch Hashem.
Wow.
No, there's
Well, this is great. This is great, Yosef Daniel. Wow, wow. I'm going to end because the time is running late and I have to light candles here for Hanukkah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I have one last question I ask all my guests,
Mhm.
and that is we talk about our five senses.
Mm.
Which one do you feel most connected to? And how does that play a role in your life and your Jewish journey? That sense that you feel so connected
That's
to.
when I read that question, I thought to myself, like, wow, that's such an interesting question. It's a very interesting question, and it's very, very thought provoking. But
Right.
I can tell you one thing. I have a strong sense of smell. I really do.
Okay.
You know, um, it's like very, very, very strong. So, so I can smell good food. You know, from far away.
Also, the good food,
Yeah.
all the different foods.
um, you know, I think you know, how has it affected me as a Jew? I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, you know, I think I've become more discerning, you know, towards
Hmm.
about people. I wouldn't say judgmental, but I would say discerning. Um, Especially living in Israel as well. You know, not just being Jewish, but living in Israel as well. Um, you can tell a lot about somebody by their you know their scent,
Mm.
you know. um and for some reason I just I've always I've always had that. You know, anybody wants to give me a gift for Hanukkah, I love colognes.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. But you know what you're saying is true because even and then we'll have to like wrap it up,
Hmm.
um, right? And with Isaac when he was giving the
Oh
blessings,
yeah.
and he smelled
Mm.
Jacob and he smelled the which were the clothings of Esau,
Hmm.
and it had a scent.
Yeah.
And I think Rash said it was smelled to him like the smell of Gan Eden or
Eden.
something.
Yeah.
That there was something about the scent. There's something
Yeah.
about the smell, and then even incense, the Ktoret,
Hmm.
is about the sacrifices, the spice korban, the
Yeah.
spice sacrifice,
Hmm.
right? Jerusalem was supposed to have this scent to it that would spread throughout the world.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's definitely something very Jewish
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I remember yeah, Rabbi Mansour touched on that as well, and I think Rabbi Lawrence recently touched on that as well. Sense of smell. You know, the scent from the Ketoret reached all the way to Yericho, which is from here. It's about an hour and a half away,
Wow.
something like that. And the one of the goats from one of the I forgot the name of the rabbis. You have to excuse me. But one of the it says in the Gemara that one of the sheep from this rabbi that lives far away would sneeze from the smell. Kala didn't have to put on lotions or anything. The smell was on your skin, was on your clothes, and it was in the air. You know, and you know it's just such a it's such a sense, one of our senses that also can trigger memory. You know, you walk
Yes,
into a place and you're like, oh, this smells like my grandmother's house. You know, it
right.
brings you back. It brings you back. And I think
Brings you
that
back.
when we smell that ketoret, Bezat Hashem, we should, you know, and I'll close with this. I feel like a rabbi, right? You know, but no, but it's I'll say, you know, that you know that Bezat Hashem, you know, we should merit Bezat Hashem to see the Ketoret, you know, going up to Shemayim and to be able to smell it. And I believe that our neshamas will have just like a quick, like an automatic, you know,
Recall.
yeah, back to where we were. Because I believe, and I think Rabbi Lawrence touched on this as well, that we have been here before. You know, our neshamas are recycled, gilgulim, and this as we see this generation being this final touch, um, we've been here several times, you know, possibly, um, and I believe that we'll be jolted back, you know, to
Um,
yes, we're finally back to how things were. But we should merit that.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me. And I'm going to wish you a happy Hanukkah. And please send regards to your wife.
Thank you so much for having us on. Thank you for being a listening ear in your audience. I apologize if I talk too much, but I've been known for that.
No.
It's just the long story, long process for everything. But Hashem is amazing, and anybody that wants to convert, I would say, be sincere. Really be sincere and know that it's a change that is not a belief, but it's a action. It's every day, every second of your life, every moment of your life. It's an action. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah means that every mitzvah that you do will the consequence for it or the reward for it is the opportunity to do another mitzvah. So it doesn't end. You don't just believe in something, you do it, you live it. So B'ezrat Hashem, um, should be matzliach with your podcast, and next year in Yerushalayim.
Amen. Amen. Thank
Okay.
you.